Well, okay, and they also have a camera.
Yeah.
So get ready to see some genitalia because that's going to happen. I guarantee it. People are going to be flashing that camera because it's happened before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uno on Xbox Live. But yeah, time to penis will be extremely low. You're right.
That's funny.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the NerdNest podcast. It's me, it's Rich, it's Russ, and we have a mountain of stuff to talk about. We've been waiting for this day for a really long time was it Wednesday? Am I remembering that right? Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
Not
on
Wednesday, right? The day before that. I want to say Tuesday.
Yes, it was 2 days ago. So on Wednesday, because we're recording this on Friday, on Wednesday, Nintendo finally unveiled the Switch 2. And before we get to pricing aside, because we have a lot of things to say about the pricing of things, because they did not mention pricing at all during the Direct. I'm curious, what did you guys think of the Direct as a whole? Rich?
I didn't watch it directly, right? Like, I didn't watch it. I watched people talk about it, including you, right? And I think that, you know, they touched on, I think, what a lot of people wanted to see, right, in the Direct. So Metro Prime 4, the third-party games, which is pretty cool. So in that way, it seemed like the Direct was what people wanted to see. And then we got the news, you know, right after, was it? With all, like, the details about pricing and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So where would, like, what kind of grade do you think? Like, I know you didn't watch the whole thing, but just, like, about the announcements that were made outside of pricing, what'd you think about it? Like A, B, C, D?
Seemed like a solid B. Another solid B from Nintendo, yeah.
What about you, Russ?
So it happened at 3 a.m. my time. So I woke up and everything was out, so I didn't watch it in real time or anything. So I already knew pricing before I even watched the Direct, But still, I went through it. I combed through it for like all my B-roll and stuff and just to take notes and whatnot. And I thought it was a good Direct. It's so long. Like, that was a really long one. And I like that they did it in 4K. Like, that was really interesting. I was like, oh, welcome to the new generation. And so that was kind of cool. I'd give it a B. I'm not a good judge in any of this stuff. It's probably the most I've ever spent time in a Nintendo Direct in my life. So
that's fair. I would give it an A. I think it's one of their best ones that they've ever had, as far as just like the announcements that they made. Everything I was really excited about a lot of the stuff. And then they got to the pricing. But before we get to the pricing, let's talk about the stats of the actual hardware. So first off, there were rumors that this thing was going to be 120 hertz variable refresh rate screen, and it is. And when I saw that rumor, I was like, ain't no way Nintendo is going to go with a 120 hertz display. That's not happening, but it is happening. They actually did put in a variable refresh screen. It's also HDR for some reason, which is strange because it's not OLED, and I'm very interested to see how this thing actually looks once you get hands on it. But Russ, what do you think about it having a 120 hertz variable refresh rate panel? Like, that's huge.
It is interesting. I don't really care about the 120 hertz part. It's the VRR. And I feel like they just kind of have to go hand in hand. Like, you're not going to see a 60 hertz VRR, And so my interest here is going to be like, Nintendo has always been pushing, getting the most out of the console at the lowest power profile. And so I'm going to put my carry hat on right now. But like, so essentially the important part is the VRR, because once it kicks in, which is probably going to be around 48 hertz, then we'll get that smooth gameplay all the way up to 120 hertz. And what I want to see is like games that are playing mostly 60 hertz, or 60 frames per second, but maybe they're going to dip every once in a while. Think about Tears of the Kingdom or whatever. Make that smooth, make that feel good. And so that's what I'm interested in, is the 48 to 60 and like getting that to feel comfortable and good with, with those AAA titles that have been ported over from like a PlayStation and Xbox, like to give you a handheld experience of those console games and to make it feel smooth. Like that's the important part to me. 120 hertz will work with some games and whatnot, but I don't think many developers are going to target that on a handheld console that is so low powered. I just think it's not going to really happen. Even Metroid Prime 4 was like, 120 hertz, 720p, like little text down below. You know what I mean?
Right.
Are we all going to play at 720p or are we going to do like 1080p, make it look beautiful, 60 hertz? That sounds good.
It also has DLSS. So if you're running at 720p and you're playing on a 7.9 inch screen, am I remembering the number right?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're playing at 720p on a 7.9 inch screen using DLSS 2, it might look okay at 100, at that resolution. It won't look as good as 1080.
Think 720p DLSS means it's going to subscale below 720p. So it might look a little chunky. 1080p DLSS will dip into 720p and whatnot. That will probably look a little bit better. And I assume that's probably even what they're going to be using in like Metroid Prime 4, it's really interesting to see how it's going to actually unfold in the handheld state. It's cool. It's going to be 120 hertz docked as well. It's great. And they're going to have support for VRR if your display has it as well. So all those are great. But for me, it's all about that smooth gameplay as opposed to hitting 120 frames per second.
What do you think, Rich?
I think Russ nailed it. I think that's exactly what they're going for, right? Is smooth gameplay. I'm going to chastise all the people that and don't get me wrong, I think Nintendo will absolutely release an OLED, but I'm going to chastise the folks that are like, they should have done an OLED on this screen on the Switch 2. I just got done watching earlier today, the Mr. Who's the Boss video on the Switch 2, and he compared the Switch 2 LCD to the Switch 1 OLED panel, and it looks better, right? And that's the thing, right?
Wow.
Panels just look better over years, right? Like there's years of like innovation and stuff like that. So the Switch in LCD, like I think you pointed out in your video, Bill, it can look great like it does on the ROG Ally. The Steam Deck LCD is pretty good. There are some problems, but it's pretty good for a $400 PC, right? It's not bad.
Sure.
So certainly Nintendo's going to trot out an OLED panel in a couple of years. But the fact that they brought VRR, great color, calibration, and it's a big screen, and it must be like landscape, right? Like Carrie must be going crazy about that one.
VRR. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't matter if it's a landscape or not because it's not a PC. So you're not running that's a very important thing when you're talking about PC games because it messes things up on some older games. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, there's also like the way it refreshes, but you're right. Since VR, there's not going to be any tearing anyway. So
right.
I feel like they were in a boardroom and they were like, okay, we can have OLED, we can have VRR. Which one are we going to do? And I think the right decision was VRR because they're like, that's going to future proof because then we're going to be able to use that technology when we get OLED. Because right now, OLED VRR is very expensive. I mean, Asus has a couple laptops and it's like they're $2,000, it's not an easy and fast technology. And then also, they get the VRR. And then I think it's even smart that with an LCD, they said, you know what, HDR as well, because that means that developers are going to be apt to put in HDR support now. And then when they have an OLED and it really makes a big difference, then that's going to be the time where we can just all turn it on because developers have been working on it for years. So I think they made the right moves based on technology that we got right now, the pricing that we have right now, and the idea that they are going to upscale and upcharge us for an OLED model sometime in the future.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. All right. Let's talk about the Joy-Cons. They showed off mouse mode. They have they showed off Metroid Prime being Metroid Prime 4 Beyond being played with mouse mode. I don't see myself ever using this. I'll probably try it and I'll be like, oh, look at that, it works, and then I'll just go back to using a traditional controller style. Rich, do you see yourself using this mode at all?
Yes, I'm a huge fan of shooters, right? Not just the Marvel Rivals, but also the boomer shooters. And I really enjoy playing them with something that at least simulates a mouse or mouse input, right? So like gyro. So it depends on what the developers, like when Night Dive Studio inevitably releases a game on the Switch, I will probably try it in mouse mode or gyro or whatever they provide that's above and beyond like dual stick. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I did notice that in the video, when they went to rotate left or right, they rotated like on a pivot, right? So you noticed that? So like
because they showed a game where there was like a putter, like a golf putter.
Yeah.
And you could change the orientation of the putter by twisting the mouse, which is not something you could do on a PC.
Yeah. So I wonder how like natural that feels, because they did the same thing in Metroid Prime 4, where I think they went to like turn to the left, and instead of like moving the mouse from here to the left, they kind of pivoted. So I wonder how comfortable or uncomfortable that would feel if I was doing it. But I'm interested.
Yeah, I'm imagining twisting my wrist like that back and forth. That seems like a really bad way to do it. Like most of the people who play mouse and keyboard games, and they're like the pros, like they don't move their wrist, they move their arm.
Yeah, exactly.
So that seems odd to me, but Nintendo is also probably thinking this is not for pros. This is for people to just, try out when they happen to have a table in front of them.
Yeah, and I think real quick, Russ, because this pertains to you, and you mentioned table, Bill. I was watching back one of our episodes when we talked about the Switch 2 last, and Russ said you're not going to want to like bust out a table every time, and I think that's exactly it, right? So like, I also watching the Mr. Who's the Boss video, he mentioned that like you can just do it anywhere. He showed it off like using the mice on his pants, right? Like on his legs. So I think that's what Nintendo's going for, is just use it however you want. You don't need a table, you don't need a surface, just your legs are fine.
So that was going to be my question, is like, where are you going to play this? Because I can see like desktop mode, like pull or tabletop mode, where you put it in table, you're at the whatever, you're at the bar with your friends and you're like, oh, let's play some Metroid or whatever. I don't know, but
somebody's been watching advertisements.
But the thing is, like, if I'm going to be playing Metroid Prime 4, I'm going to play it on my TV, like I want to get the 4K and all that stuff. I don't have a table. I have a coffee table at my couch. I'm not going to bend over and play this game. Like, that doesn't sound comfortable to me. I want to lean back, kind of enjoy it. So how am I going to play this? I'm going to buy one of those table things you can put on your lap and like do that kind of thing,
TV tray.
Like, right, exactly. Like, am I going to do something like that? It just doesn't make sense to me. But I think there is a cool opportunity for mouse accessories, like something that will go on top of the Joy-Con that'll give us a more comfortable ergonomic grip. Like there's an opportunity there, and that might make it somewhat more interesting. I mean, it's one of the cool things about the Switch originally is that people came up with things that you could do with it. They did that with the Wiimotes too. Remember they have like guns or like a golf club you could use and stuff. Like that'll be interesting to see, what kind of accessories come out of that. But otherwise, I'm not really seeing it.
I think
I did watch the Treehouse. Like they had a Treehouse video. I like put it on and kind of in the background. And one of the things that they showed is they were playing Metroid Prime 4. And he had it in mouse mode, and then he didn't change anything. He just picked it up and started playing in like traditional mode, and it just worked.
That's awesome.
Like he never had to like go into a setting and say, I'm using mouse mode or anything like that. He just picked it up and started playing like a regular ass game. And I thought that was cool. What were you going to say, Rich?
Two things. Number one, I am just broadly excited for like, regardless of how good the Joy-Con mouse is, just mouse as an input, right? So like inevitably there'll be third-party mice and stuff like that, or third-party Joy-Cons. And so like even outside of shooters, Mario Maker, right? Like that Mario Maker 3 or whatever is going to be awesome with a mouse. So that'll be nice. So things like that. The second thing is we haven't talked about the game with the two mice, the wheelchair game.
Oh, right. So that looks like it's fun for about 15 seconds.
Exactly. That's it. And they're charging that for that, right?
Oh, they're charging for everything.
Jesus. Yeah.
I was going to say Bob Wolf had the best tweet of the day when he it showed that wheelchair game and he said Mario and Sonic at the Paralympics.
Right.
It's a beautiful tweet.
That is perfection.
Yeah. I think that's a perfectly that's definitely, I like that they're making that. And I'm sure that there are going to be people who buy it, and I'm sure it'll be fun. Like, they're going to be having a blast playing that game. It just, the thing that I learned from the Wii was that waving a thing around is fun for very, very short amounts of time. And it, like, I don't long to go back to that. I like gyro for aiming, but I don't like what I always call waggle. Waggle is terrible.
Yeah. I don't want waggle, but some sort of like aiming input. And again, we've talked about potentially DS emulation. Like, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Russ? Do you think we're going to get DS or 3DS emulation with, I mean, well, we still only have one screen.
Right. Yeah, they would have to do the whole emulation thing where they put them side by side or up above, and that just doesn't work with 16:9. And so I don't personally see it. I feel like Nintendo needs to wait until they can implement it in a way that satisfies them, and I don't think that the current options are there. So I don't really see it personally.
Although we will have a lot more emulation stuff to talk about later on in the show, because the Switch 2 is emulating Switch 1. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. And there's also GameCube, which was
that's right. There's also the GameCube stuff added. But that's later on in the show. Next up, they talked about 3D sound. I mean, maybe with headphones, but I mean, it's speakers. How good could they be? I'm sure that they sound fine. Do you guys have any thoughts about the speakers and the 3D spatial audio that they mentioned?
I'm just interested in the mic part, like the noise cancellation and whatnot, like that.
Yeah.
Kerry talked about in his video, basically, that, NVIDIA has their own technology for that. And if they're using an NVIDIA chip, they're probably using NVIDIA's technology, which is good. And so that might be cool. But, you guys all saw the game chat footage. I don't know if this is in your notes for later, but like, gosh, it was crawling at like 12 frames per second with everybody like showing their 4 screens. And I was like, oh, at least they're showing it janky now, as opposed to
not
us
faking
experience it janky later. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to game chat in a little bit. 256 gigs of storage. That's 8 times more than you had on the Nintendo Switch. It sounds great, but games are really big. And I think that Nintendo seems to be the only company that understands that you can compress things and make them smaller. I think Breath of the Wild is 7 gigs total.
No, it's more than that. It's like
is
18. It? Yeah, it's like 18. Well, the ROM is.
I was going to say, how would you know? How would you know, Russ?
Oh, yeah. What's up, Russ, there? Maybe it was Mario Odyssey. Anyway.
Yeah, that one's smaller. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very impressive how small Nintendo is able to make the games. 256 gigs. Russ, do you think that's enough?
So I want to know, and I mentioned this in my videos, like I want to know how much storage size are on those cartridges. Like how much have they upgraded the size to? How much space are they giving developers to work with it? Because if those are 40 gigabyte carts, we're going to see 40 gigabyte games. And
don't forget the carts don't matter.
Well, some carts don't. That's the crazy
carts
thing,
don't
right?
Matter.
Some
I was
carts
wrong
don't,
about
some
that.
do. Yeah. And this is really interesting too for me, is like, okay, file sizes are going to have to get bigger. 4K textures are much more like file size intensive than 1080p textures. And so we're going to be seeing that just in the files themselves. And yeah, I think that 256 gigs are going to get eaten up real fast. I think the biggest tell is going to be when we get that Nintendo Switch 2 version of Tears of the Kingdom. How big is that going to be? Because I think that's going to be about the max that we're going to see in any Switch 2 games. So I'm guessing 30-ish gigs just right there. And so we'll see. That's going to eat into the storage fast.
Although Nintendo does have that patent, not on throwing a ball, but they have that patent on upscaling the textures. So they have like compressed textures and then they upscale them before they're used. That might be how they can keep the file size small. I'm curious if putting your game on the Nintendo Switch 2 will then, if they'll license that to people who are putting their games on that so that they can use that tech that they've patented in order to keep their file sizes down. Because I think that would be good for customers, and Nintendo, it would make it more likely that people can buy more games because then they can fit them on their systems.
Yeah. I mean, they've always been conscious about this. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition that just came out last month or whatever. Everyone was so crazy. Like, they were like, this is only 7.5 gigs or whatever, even though this game is larger than the previous versions of this game, you know. And that amount of compression and file saving wasn't required because you can fit more on a cartridge, but they didn't. And so as long as that ethos kind of stays, then yeah, I'm hoping that we will see smaller file sizes.
And then in addition to it having a 256 gig onboard storage, you can also get an SD, not Extreme, Extended?
Express.
No, Express, thank you. SD Express, which I already bought one just because I figured their prices are going to go up now that there's a little bit more demand for them. It was $60 for 256 gigs. Rich, what do you think of, like, do you think that the idea that they're using Express instead of just regular ass SD cards, do you think it's really necessary? Because, I mean, we've been playing games on our handheld PCs and like it seems fine on, say, the Steam Deck.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, without like being tuned into the like technicals of what's inside the Switch 2, I don't really feel a reason to doubt them on that. Like we're going to talk plenty about all the things that Nintendo did wrong with this this rollout, but I don't have a reason to doubt that the Express was needed, right? Like you will still be streaming high res textures at some point. And I don't know what the bandwidth on the RAM is. I don't know how much RAM there is. Did they mention that?
No, they didn't mention how much RAM.
Yeah, so I mean, like there are other potential limitations, and if they are able to deliver like a really high quality experience with Express that they're not able to deliver without Express, I'm okay with that.
I wonder if it has something to do with their upscaling, like the upscaling tech. Maybe it has to be able to stream in fast enough for them to then upscale it, something like that. That's all speculation, though.
Yeah, the data could go direct to GPU from the card if it's fast enough. So something like that, you know, and we have to upgrade our storage at some point, and it might as well be now. And the way I see it is this will probably give us a next gen feeling experience when playing these games because loading times and stuff. And so that, I mean, how many people marveled at just how quick it was to get into a game with the PS5 and the Xbox? And I think that's kind of the idea that I think that we're going to see here is like, oh my gosh, it used to take me 30 seconds to get into this game. And now it only takes me 5. And so I'm anticipating we'll see things like that coming in the future. And the silver lining is that they didn't use a proprietary memory card like the PSP or something. You know what I mean? So this is a card, micro SD Express, that we will probably see in like Steam Deck 2 or 3 or something. You know, we're going to see it in other ways, and we'll be able to use that card on other things. So
that's a really good point. I'm glad that they didn't go proprietary because that's something that they could easily have done. All right, like Microsoft did with the Xbox Series system, where you got to have the thing that clamps into the little socket on the back, which is nice for upgrading because it makes it super easy to do. But it's not that much harder to put an NVMe into my PlayStation 5 over just putting a thing in the back. Anyway, all right, so you know, Russ got to see the dock at CES, or a picture of the dock at CES, and he said, it's a big old chonky boy, and now we've seen it. It is a big old chonky boy. That thing is thick in the back because it's got a fan in order to help cool the Nintendo Switch 2. I've seen a lot of people saying that they are like, well, you know, these kind of cooling devices don't really work. But as I'm sitting here talking to you guys, I have one of these cooling devices on the back of my camera to keep it from overheating because it's sending 4K to my computer. And that, like, in the past, there has been times where my camera just shuts off because it got too hot because there's not enough airflow in the attic up here. And so I got a little tiny fan on the back of my camera to keep it running. And so I do think that that's going to be effective at keeping the system cool as they remove the battery limits in order to allow it to go up to a much higher TDP in order to give us better performance. What do you guys think about that dock? And the price of it, I think, is $150 maybe. You get it with the system, but I think buying it separately, I think it's like $150. I'm going to look it up while you guys talk. Rich?
Yeah.
I don't remember what is just going on price. I don't remember what the price of the Switch 1 dock was. 150 doesn't seem, I mean, it's a lot for a dock, but it doesn't seem crazy for like a Nintendo dock. For the fan, of course, like that all makes sense. And we speculated as to a fan being in the dock prior to us finding out. And yeah, it can be detrimental when you're using a third party like fan on something that's not expecting a fan or something like that. But in this case, it's developed by Nintendo. I would expect that, yeah, if they feel they need it to, like you were saying, they'll raise those TDPs. I think that makes sense.
I was wrong. It's 109, and that comes with the dock and the like a power brick, a USB-C cord for the power brick, and HDMI for $109. That's not bad.
That seems pretty
I don't think
typical.
it's bad. You think about like so you want to have one Switch and two places to plug it in. You want a bedroom, you want your living room. That's I would pay that. Like I got no problem with it, and I do worry that it's not going to cool as much just because, you know, there's no fan as far as I've seen with the back of the Switch. There's no fan right there as well, right? It's not like it's doubling the fan. It's just pushing a fan against like a piece of metal, you know, and how much can it cool off? But that's how those cameras work too. Like the camera fans, I got them on my cameras as well, because I can get 45 minutes without a fan on, or I can get indefinite with without and then with. And so there's definitely a difference there, but yeah, I'm really hoping that we can see upwards of 20 watt TDP. 25 watt would be crazy. Just because I feel like that's going to quadruple the power input of what you'll get in handheld mode. So,
well, since you bring up TDP, it's a perfect time to talk about the battery. It has I think they give their battery numbers in milliamp hours. I think that it was converted out. It's about 20 watt hour batteries, which, just to put in perspective for everybody, the original Steam Deck LCD came with a 40 watt hour battery. The Steam Deck OLED comes with a 48 watt hour battery, I think. And then you have the ROG Ally isn't that a 40 watt hour battery as well?
Yep.
And then the Ally X is 80.
Yep.
Right. And so then the Switch is 20. The Switch 2 is 20, and the Switch 1 was 13 or 16.
I want to say 13. It's pretty low.
Yeah. So it is a bigger battery than last time. That makes sense. There's more room in it because it's a bigger device, because of that bigger screen. It's going to be real hard to compare apples to apples until we actually get hands-on with it, because the Switch's chip is just so damn efficient, and I'm going to assume that this chip is going to be super efficient as well. What do you think about that battery size, Russ?
So I just checked. The Switch one was 16 watt hours, so it actually wasn't that huge of a jump. So yeah, I think it's fine. You know, it's 5220 milliamp hours is the milliamp hours that they're giving, which is 19.3 watt hours. At this point, I just trust that they know what they're doing when it comes to battery management, when it comes to efficiency and whatnot. I don't really have anything else to go on other than just their track record, which has been great with the first Switch. And they say between 2 and 6.5 hours of battery life. You know, that 6.5 is crazy. I think with that size battery, with a 1080p, 120 hertz VRR screen, which I think is going to pull quite a bit of wattage, about 2 watts. And so, yeah, that'll be very interesting to see how that all plays out. But I trust it. You know, 2 hours is a sweet spot. Like, I think for this type of gameplay, you know, play it for a couple hours, put it in the dock, resume your game. I think it's a pretty easy setup.
Plus, you can charge it from both ports.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty neat.
No, I mean, not simultaneously. You can charge it from either the top or the bottom. So it makes it easier to use while you're playing if you don't want to dock it. Rich, 2 hours enough for you?
Yes, especially at the low end, right? Like I think with the Switch 2, we're talking about an actual minimum of 2 hours. I trust that that's what they mean there. I don't think that it's like, 2 hours. Really, if you get a Windows handheld and it tells you 2 hours, you really only get an hour and a half, because the battery, it's going to shut off automatically when the battery reaches a certain percent. And then also they're probably not telling you the truth about the statistics, right? So when they say 2 hours, I pretty much believe that they mean a minimum of 2 hours, and I think that's fair. And also the high end of 6 seems realistic too. I remember when the Steam Deck was first announced, I don't remember the exact high end number, but I want to say it was like 9 hours, and everybody was like, Yeah, I guess if you're going to a website, right? Like no one's going to play the Steam Deck LCD for 9 hours.
Right. Like I don't play these games for that long. And if I do, like I'm usually going to have it docked because I don't want to get switch neck looking down the whole time. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right. So we've got the hardware basically out of the way. Let's talk about the chat features. The C button, which we've had so many different predictions about. Last week, I think that people were talking about the idea that it would be like able to pair to a Nintendo Switch 1 so that you could do a dual screen thing. Nope, it's chat. It's just chat. If it did that, then they should, like I said last week, they should turn the C button sideways so it's a U button and make it look like the Wii U logo. But it's just a chat button. Boy, oh boy, does it look like frickin' Discord.
Yeah, right.
Like, do you guys think it's Discord in the background?
You never know, in terms of technology and stuff. I'm assuming there's got to be some trademarks or, that kind of thing with that. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's nice that it's on the console as opposed to an app. But I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to play Mario Kart World with my friends across the world and like chat with them, shouting in my living room, like across the room for them. I'm just never going to do that while my roommate's blending, his smoothie or whatever, like they showed. Like, it's not me. So I don't know.
I mean, listen, we are all content creators. We know how microphones work. That thing is going to sound like garbage. There's no way a microphone that far away is going to sound good, especially a cheap microphone that's going to be I don't care what kind of AI processing. We've all recorded and then tried to fix audio in post. Garbage in, garbage out. It's going to sound bad.
That's a fact.
Can you imagine playing Fortnite when, like, you're just hearing these kids like screaming into their microphones and that's a nightmare to me. I don't know.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's who this is for, I think, right? Like we talked last week about how Minecraft, Roblox, and Fortnite are not just games and platforms. They're also just what did we call it? Like shopping centers?
I called it the mall. I said that to my wife. She goes, "It's their third place."
Yeah, exactly. It's their third place. So like these kids are going to be, playing Minecraft, Roblox, and Fortnite on the Switch too, and they'll have the chat option. Like I said, my kid plays those games and he plays on iPad on FaceTime with people that live like 2 minutes away, right? Like kids that live 2 minutes away. That's just what it is. I do like reminisce a little bit about like the 360 days when I used to like really be heavy into voice chat when I was playing like Call of Duty and stuff like that. But I'm not going to do that anymore. If I really want to play a game and, if I'm playing cooperatively, like I'm playing with you, Bill, playing Marvel Rivals, sure, I'll chat with you, but I'm not looking to chat with everybody on the team.
Yeah, no, not randoms. And okay. And they also have a camera.
Yeah.
So get ready to see some genitalia because that's going to happen. I guarantee it. People are going to be flashing that camera because it's happened before.
Yeah. Yeah. Uno on Xbox Live. But yeah, time to penis will be extremely low. You're right.
That's funny.
Time to penis.
I'm thinking about how this all is going to fall out. And I just don't even see my son, like my oldest son who uses Discord all the time. I don't see him transitioning over to doing Switch group chat because when they're doing Discord, it's like, four of them or whatever. One of them's like eating dinner. The other one's like taking his dog for a walk, like they're all plugged in using Discord and they got their AirPods in or whatever. And they're all talking, but they're not all playing. Right. And I can't imagine that they're all being like, okay, grab your Switch when you go and, take your dog for a walk so we can talk. They're not going to do that. They're just going to use their phones. And so it'll be interesting, but I don't see this taking off other than, the people who find a use for it.
So you're saying Nintendo should have kept the phone app for group chat?
I think that they were fighting a losing battle they tried their best, but Discord is, at least as far as I can see, is going to win out anyway.
Yeah, certainly.
I mean, look, Rich, you and I, we played Marvel Rivals together and we hopped on Discord and I don't know if you knew, but all I did was I used my phone. I connected, I was playing over there on my TV with my PC. But all I did was connect my phone and I put my AirPods in and they're close to me, so it sounds fine.
Yeah.
the microphone on the Switch is going to be far away, so it's going to sound really, really bad.
Yeah.
So I think that this is good for people who want to, like, not everybody has an easy way to play the Switch and like connect with a different device at the same time. So it is going to be better for those people, but it's absolutely not something that I'm going to be using. I can't see myself using it, especially with the camera, which I was surprised, props to Nintendo. Apparently you can just use any USB-C camera. Like, you don't have to use their camera. That's shocking to me.
I also assume it's going to be the same for a mic, right? Like Turtle Beach will certainly have a few accessories. Do they still exist? But you get the idea.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay. So the mic is just built into the system, but if you have the new Pro controller, it has a headphone jack, and apparently it is a TRRS headphone jack, so it will support a microphone. For those of you that don't know what TRRS, it's tip ring sleeve. It's like how many black circles are on your headphone jack when you plug it in. If it's a TRRS, then it can work with a microphone. If it's a TRS, then it can't work with a microphone. And apparently it's going to work with TRRS, so you're going to be able to just plug in something into the bottom of your Switch controller, the Pro controller, and play that way. So I think that that's good news.
Yeah.
All right. We talked about the hardware. Is there anything that I left off for hardware?
Not that I can think of.
No.
Let's talk about the price of the hardware. $450. I do not remember our predictions. If you guys remember our predictions, then just remind us in the comments down below. I don't find $450 to be ridiculous. I don't think that that's a horrible price. Would I love to pay less? Absolutely. But I don't think that it's, oh my God, this is so expensive. I think it's fine for $450. I would have preferred $400, but $450 is not unreasonable. Rich, is it unreasonable to you?
I don't think it'll fly off the shelves at $450. Like, will it sell out on launch day? Sure, it's Nintendo. But I think it'll have a hard time having the same year one success as the Switch one. I feel like that's a bold prediction. But I think $450 is a lot, and people are actually struggling right now, right? Like these are hard times, and $450 is a good amount to ask for when you don't know what you're getting, at least not yet, in terms of price to performance, right? It's not the price in a vacuum, it's what you get for that price. And I didn't see anything that blew my socks away enough for me to be like, yeah, $450, that makes sense. It feels a little out of reach.
Russ, do you think 450 is out of reach, or do you think it's going to be okay?
Well, I don't remember what number I settled on in our last conversation, but I remember arguing for cheaper, like I was like on the cheap end. And I feel like 400 was kind of my limit. And so 450 is above that. And, Rich makes a good point. It's like we are struggling every day. It feels like it's getting worse. Like at a daily basis right now. Yep. And that's not something that I'm used to thinking, in terms of just like, gosh, are we going to be able to afford whatever a week from now? Like that's how bad it's getting. And so that coupled with the fact that when the Switch One came out, it was a good price. There was nothing really there for it to replace, because there was the Wii U and no one had it. So it's just like this new thing. So it was a new thing. But now the Switch 2 is like, well, I still got my Switch. Like there's that whole kind of feeling. And I'm in that camp where there's like the creator side of me, and then there's the Russ as a dude guy. And as a dude, I would not be buying this. Like I'd be like, I don't even play enough of my Switch games to justify getting a Switch 2 right now. But as a creator, I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy this thing because I want to review it, And so I think that probably that sentiment is probably carrying over to other non-creators, right? It's just kind of like, I already got a Switch One, like the kids can wait, or, I can wait, that kind of thing. And so I definitely agree that it's not going to be a runaway success at this price point with the environment that we're in. And then also the fact that there already is the Switch One. It's like the PS4 to PS5 transition. People take their time, and I can see that happening as well.
can I double down on what Russ just said? So yeah, so he was talking
if you
about
want.
yeah. So with you mentioned like creators and just dude bros, right? And right now I'm somewhere in between. I haven't made a video in a couple of months, and I don't feel like I need to pick up a Switch 2 on launch day. And that's kind of crazy for me. So like, I know there are all these restrictions on pre-ordering a Switch 2. I don't think I meet those restrictions, right? Like, and I'm not in a rush to try to like work around that. When I didn't get the Steam Deck because of like all of the internet issues that Valve was having in Steam, and so like I wasn't early, I was Q2 or Q3 or whatever. I literally started a YouTube channel in hopes that I could try to get one early. And I'm nowhere near that for the Switch 2. It's just like, okay, if I get it on launch somehow, that's cool. If not, I don't feel like I feel like I can wait a few months.
Well, I think that when the Switch came out, there was nothing like it. Now that the Switch 2 is coming out, there's a lot of things that are like it. And that absolutely changes the game, I think, for Nintendo and for the people who are interested in picking up these devices. For me, I was settled at around $400 was going to be the price, I think. An extra $50 doesn't really bother me all that much. So even if I wasn't a content creator, I would still be getting this right away because I'm very excited for Mario Kart World, which we'll talk about in a second. But you go ahead, Rich.
Here's one thing I'll add is I feel, and maybe my feeling is misplaced here. I feel like Nintendo should have tried their best to like make this a no-brainer buy for most people. And I think their attitude is like, they will come, they will buy it. Like, we don't have to do everything to make them buy it. They will just buy it. And that's the feeling I'm getting. And I wish that weren't, what they were conveying to me.
It feels like hubris. It feels like the end of Rome to me, kind of. I'm not trying to be doom and gloomy, but it feels like that kind of hubris point where like, they'll come. That kind of Apple mentality, which somehow works. There's too much out there. We'll get into this more, I think, when we start talking about prices of games and all that kind of stuff. But it's too much. This is hubris to me.
Well, I mean, so we talked about, you guys mentioned pre-orders. Pre-orders have now been canceled. Nintendo announced pre-orders were going live on April 9th. That's in 5 days from the day that we're recording this. And then today they said, you know what? Never mind. We're not going to do pre-orders yet. We want to sit and wait and find out what happens with the tariffs, because the current administration just put out crazy high tariffs basically across the board. And Nintendo felt like, I think that they did not an earnings call, but they did a thing with investors where they talked about their plans for the future. And one of the things that they said was, we're not really too worried about tariffs because we moved most of our manufacturing out of China and moved them into Vietnam and Cambodia. Well, I think Vietnam has a 35% tariff. 45. And I might be getting the numbers 45. Wrong. And then Cambodia is like 49% tariff. So Nintendo's like, well, we don't know how much the Switch 2 is going to cost anymore. And we don't want to do pre-orders because we'll use Russ as an example. Let's say Russ pre-orders at $450, and then the tariffs make Nintendo raise the price to $500, $550, $600. Well, then I would say they'd have to honor his pre-order, but what would probably just happen is his pre-order would get canceled, but that would be a bad look for them. So I understand why they're doing it. This is not just going to affect Nintendo, though. This is going to affect Nintendo. We've got this Xbox handheld that's supposed to be coming out later on this year. That's not manufactured in the U.S. We have the Lenovo Legion Go S Steam Edition that's coming out later this year. I'm sure the Xboxes and PlayStation 5s are going to go up in price. And if you were looking to buy yourself a new graphics card, well, chances are the price is going to go up on that as well. And this is a huge black eye for the industry, I think. What's your reaction to that, Rich?
Yeah, so with Nintendo kind of saying that they weren't worried about it, I both understand and am questioning their logic. So on both sides. So why I say I understand is because one thing we've seen is that this administration is, gonna say they'll do something, not do something, then maybe do something, right? So like we saw this with the tariffs a couple of weeks ago when they were kind of reverted and
with Canada.
delayed. With Canada, yes. But then on the other hand, this is not the first time we're seeing like this tariff action. It's more extreme this time. But I was working for a mattress company during the 2016 to 2020 administration, right? And mattresses had really extreme tariffs at that time. And the company ended up shutting down. But the point is, like, it was the same thing. It was like it started in one country, but then the tariffs were kind of applied on multiple countries. So as the mattress company was trying to change their logistics and move from importing from one country to another country, the tariffs would, change on them and ended up, like I said, the company shutting down. So it's a weird, crazy situation. But yeah, you're right. This is just the beginning, it seems.
Yeah. Russ, do you think that the Switch 2 is going to be $450?
I don't know. Like, there's the part of me that hopes it, right? Like because I was just saying that 450 is a little high, and so there's definitely a part of me is like, just stay there, But it's such a volatile market right now. Everything is just crazy, and it's hard to trust what's going to happen in the future just based on how these things have been rolling out and then pulled back and rolled out and pulled back. And when are we going to call the bluff, kind of thing. And when are they going to actually allow the pre-orders? And so it's all unknown, and it's the worst time possible probably to launch pre-orders for a handheld console. But they got all that stock. They got to move it. So.
That's true. Nintendo does have a lot of money. So, all right, let's talk about the games. So first off, Mario Kart World. That game, I had said for years, what is Nintendo going to do to make me want to buy the next Mario Kart game? Mario Kart 8 does everything. It's awesome. All you got to do is give me more tracks and more people, and I'll be happy. Just make Mario Kart 8 the new Mario Kart, and then just add to it over time. And they did not do that, and I am so glad that they didn't do that, because this looks really good. It's a combination of Burnout Paradise and Mario Kart, and you can just drive wherever the hell you want. And I know that a few weeks back, Rich, you said, who's looking for a new Mario Kart? And I held up my hand because I freaking love Mario Kart. It's one of my all-time favorite games.
To be clear, what I said was not for now, for Mario Kart 8, because you said exactly what you just said now. You said that then, that like Mario Kart 8 did everything that Mario Kart needed to do. And what I was saying was, before Mario Kart 8 came out, no one that I know of had this sentiment that like, I really can't wait for the next Mario Kart. Similar to like with you playing Mario Kart 8, you don't feel like you need a new Mario Kart. But this is what Nintendo is so good at, right? Like Nintendo doesn't really, or they try not to make a game, a sequel especially, unless they have something new that gets people excited. And I agree. I think Mario Kart World does that. By the way, one of the other things you said is that they should just drop the 8, right? Like make it more of a live service game like you're describing. They dropped the 8. It's Mario Kart World. Maybe this is the forever Mario Kart for a while.
I don't know, because like you think of a live service game, generally those are like a free to play game, and then you buy like the characters that you want to play with and the cosmetics. And when they showed it, the first thing that I noticed was like, oh, look at this. Like they showed one of the characters in like 6 different outfits or something. And I was like, oh, that's how they're going to make some extra money. They're going to sell those outfits. Yeah. Nope. You just pick up food as you, like literally they're like, what's one of the things that you do on a road trip? You stop and you get food. So you pick up food as like a power up, and it changes your costume. You're not paying for those. Those are just included in the game. Not that justifies the price, but we'll talk about that in a second. Russ, are you interested in Mario Kart World?
You know, I even when I recorded my video, like my voiceover, I only had a kind of a bit of an understanding based on the articles that I had read, where they basically said you can play Mario Kart like Mario Kart, and you can drive around the world. And you can take pictures. Like those are the things that I saw. That's what I mentioned in my video. But then I went and I like watched the trailer in full, like listening to the guy talk and all that stuff. And I'm like, holy crap, you can drive between the different races, like Sega Rally Championship kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like you're on a Grand Prix that's actually a Grand Prix. You can do like a across the world thing, which feels to me like a career mode. Like those are the things that are very exciting. I didn't even talk about that in my video because that's the stuff that actually I would play. Because I don't want to just do the same carts over and over. I don't want to go find a place to take a picture. What I want to do is do something, that is an investment where I'm like doing all the stuff in between. And so, I'm excited for it. I put in my registered interest on the Nintendo website for the pack, for the bundle, because I was like, that's worth $500 to me, you know. I'm excited for it. It's probably going to be, that and Metroid will probably be my only day one purchases. Or I don't even know if Metroid's coming out day one, but whenever that is available, like those are the ones that I will buy. So
I think it is, but if it is, that's also my day one purchase. It just says Metroid Prime 4 Beyond launches in 2025. It doesn't say that it launches with the Switch too. So I guess Mario Kart 8 is the one game that I'm going to get because I don't care about Super Mario Jamboree. I played the shit out of Zelda. I don't need to play those again, even with their little GPS thing. So this is going to be a Mario Kart system for me at first, and I am totally okay with that. They also have like a battle royale mode. That's where you're driving across the entire world. And then you go through checkpoints, and each checkpoint that you go through, only 16 players can go through this checkpoint. Only 11 players can go through this checkpoint. And then if you can't keep up, then you get kicked out and you start a new checkpoint race. And I think that's really cool.
I want to revisit conversation we had real quick before we drop this topic. So is Mario Kart World a system seller?
I think so. For me, that's the reason I don't know, because I would probably be getting it anyway because I do like Nintendo games, but I absolutely would get Mario Kart with every single Nintendo system I've ever bought.
Yeah,
Russ?
So I don't see it as a system seller. I see it as it's going to sell well. It's going to be a bestseller, but it seems like a gamer's game. Like it's like, okay, here's like more stuff to do, all these things that are intricate and whatever and whatnot. That's not a system seller to me. The appeal to me with a system seller is like something that's like immediately you can grab into and just kind of enjoy. You know, Wii Sports is like that pack and title for me, where it's like people are going to buy that for Wii Sports, you know. I don't know about this one. I think I had reservations before about it, but I just don't see this as a system seller.
You did, and I like the way you phrased it in the last conversation. I do think it's a system seller, but what you said was basically people will buy it because they buy the Switch 2, right? Like, so as opposed to people buying the Switch 2 because they want Mario Kart, if they buy the Switch 2, you might as well just get Mario Kart. And having a bundle that makes it, $50 as opposed to the other price. I think it'll have a high attach rate as well.
Yeah, I just don't. I like you think about somebody just laying in bed at night and be like, I can't live without Princess Peach eating a cheeseburger. I got to get this. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see the game mechanics selling the console. You know, that's kind of the way that I see it, and I agree. You know, Wii Sports was such a phenomenon, and I keep going back to that. But man, it's just like it's bowling. It's like it feels like bowling. You know, and that was a thing that was really compelling and easy to sell.
And I think that surprised Nintendo. I don't think that they made that game thinking this is going to be the game. And then when it came out, they were like, "Oh, okay, we nailed it by accident."
Maybe never
it wasn't
do this
by
again.
accident. Who knows? Right. Anytime I've nailed something, it was by accident.
Dang it. Kind.
Yeah. All right. Well, Rich, you gave me the perfect transition. $80 for Mario Kart World. Not $80 for Donkey Kong. I think possibly that's because Mario Kart World is an online focused game. People are far less likely to pirate that. Donkey Kong Bonanza is not an online focused game. It is a single player game, which people are much more likely to pirate. And maybe that's why Nintendo feels like they can charge $80 for this. I just put out a video this morning talking about the idea that Nintendo just raised prices for video games for everyone because they're not going to be the only ones doing this, I don't think. But Rich, what do you think about $80 for Mario Kart World?
I think it's exorbitant, right? Like there's no talking around it. It sucks. I don't want to pay $80 for a video game. And I probably won't, right? Like this one obviously gets bundled in. So
right.
I'll get the bundle and I'll pay $50 for it. I don't really see myself paying $80 for a video game. It's going to take years for me to get used to that and be like, okay, I'll do that. I'll buy it. I think Donkey Kong so I like what you said in that video where, yeah, it gives other companies permission to sell games at higher prices. I also wonder, is that the point, right? Like, it feels like they're trying to appeal a lot to the big third-party publishers like EA, right? Like with Madden, FC, and other games like that Cyberpunk coming to Switch 2. I think that they want to attract those publishers. And I feel like them making an $80 game is like, hey, you can sell your luxury games on this console.
Russ is shaking his head.
It's not an $80 game. It is an $80 plus Nintendo Switch Online game.
Good point.
Right. So, and that's $20 a year for an individual, $35 a year for a family plan. And are they going to throw in expansion pass crap? Because that's $50 a year for an individual and $80 a year for a family. I just had to look all this up because I don't even pay for expansion pack because it's crazy. And so, and are they going to have DLC as well? Like, you know, we had to pay for tracks for Mario Kart 8. Are we going to have to do that for this one? You know, like I don't see it as being an $80 game. I don't like this jump. I really don't. You know, we just got used to $60 for me, at least. I just got used to $60 with the jump to the first Nintendo Switch, and then $70 for Tears of the Kingdom. Like it's creeping up, and this is going to be the new norm. I'm not happy about it. Like I mentioned in my review or my video, it's like, this feels like the 90s where you got a console and you had to make the biggest decision of your life is which game could you afford to buy right then and there? Do you spend it on the $50 one that might not be as good? You spend it on the $80 like Nintendo 60 or 64 or Super Nintendo game. Like that's what I'm worried about, is that it gives us less choice and it just makes us have to be a little bit more choosy about what we can actually play.
It's so funny that, sorry, what did you just say at the end there?
Oh, it's just that I don't like it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's so funny that you brought up the 90s. If you guys could look in Discord real quick, I just shared something that somebody had posted in my Discord, and it's an ad for Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo games from back in the day. And you could see that games like Jurassic Park for the Super Nintendo, $79.98. $94 for Breath of Fire. Now, I don't know what magazine this is from. It looks familiar.
It looks like a Sears catalog or something. This is page 383, so I feel like it's a real thick catalog.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like my initial instinct is, well, are these like American dollars? And I don't know, but I do remember games being really expensive back then.
Very expensive.
What'd you say, Rich?
I was agreeing. Super Nintendo games were very expensive, especially some of the like prestige ones like Chrono Trigger, which I think just had a bigger storage, right? So it was like, I don't know, I want to say it was like $90 even in America. Yeah. So yeah, the games were expensive. I think that sometimes people post this. Sometimes people post it just like, oh, look at this. This was a thing that existed in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then sometimes people post it and say, so games should be expensive right now. And
right.
I don't know. I don't know how well different companies are doing, although I believe Nintendo's doing very well. So I'm not crying tears for Nintendo. But my concern isn't with how the companies are doing. I don't think that people can really afford $80 games on a regular basis. I think it's exactly what Russ said. They're going to treat every game purchase as that much more important. And that means fewer games are going to sell, I think. Fewer copies will be sold.
What's crazy with this pricing on this thing, and I hope you show it on the screen for the YouTube and all that, is like you can't even judge the price by the value and quality of the game, because they've got RoboCop versus Terminator on the Genesis for $88. Like, that is a crap game, right? They got Caesar's Palace for $88, Pirates Dark Water for $85. Those are not winners, Palace. You know, right? And so, yeah, like it's. That's what I'm worried about, is something like this where they're going to charge a price and we're going to think, oh, well, it must be very good, you know, if it's going to be $80, but it's not. It's just like the next NBA 2K or whatever, that maybe you're not going to get all that value out of it. And so I am worried about this kind of stuff.
Well, do you think $80 is now the new baseline? Or
no,
is $70 the baseline price. And Nintendo feels like Mario Kart's so freaking huge that we can charge $80 for that?
I think so. It's the Tears of the Kingdom price. It's the new price, you know. It's a premier price. But how, like, who gets to say if something's premier or not? You know, that's what I'm worried about. And if a third party publisher is like, yeah, you know, our game's premier, you know, we spent all this money on it. This is sunk cost fallacy or whatever. You know, we paid all this for it. We need to get that money back or whatever. I don't know. Yeah,
it's really rough.
Yeah, excuse me. I think that Cyberpunk, as we see like GTA 6 coming out, right? Like, these are going to be I guess Cyberpunk's been out for a few years, but whatever Witcher 4 comes out or whatever the next CDPR game, I think these prestige games are going to be priced at least 80, right? Like, I think
at least. Okay. So so the thing is, we kept hearing GTA 6 is going to be the one that hits $100. Do you think that that's going to be the price? I mean, when those rumors first came out, like I said in my video today, I said, ain't no way that's happening. Like, GTA isn't going to do that. They'll do $70 and then they'll upsell people on stupid cosmetic BS, right? But now that Nintendo's done $80 for Mario Kart, I don't see any world in which Rockstar doesn't say, Mario Kart's $80, GTA 6 is $120. I think that that's probably the case.
I don't see why not. I don't see anything standing in Rockstar's way, right? Like, even before Mario Kart 8, I didn't know necessarily about the $100 number, but it seems clear that they are trying to charge more for this price. But more importantly, other publishers are waiting to see what GTA 6 does, right? Like, if they charge more, we can charge more. And so, yeah, you're right. If Nintendo does it, then it's only going to enable other companies to do it as well, if not higher.
Yeah. So there you go. You got that game for, that's a lot of money. $80 for that game. Luckily, it is the pack-in, so I'll be able to get it for essentially $50. And I think that part of me wonders if that's the only reason that it's 80 is to make the system at 500 look like that much more of a deal. And maybe Mario Kart 8, or they'll only do it with pack-in games. So like, they would only do it like if they bring out the next Zelda in 2 or 3. Well, I'm going to say in 2027, because that's when the movie is supposed to come out. When they bring out that next Zelda game, that one's going to be $80, because there's also going to be a pack-in with the Nintendo Switch that'll be a $500, and that'll make it feel like a $50 game.
Well, that's going to suck even more, because I'll already have had a Switch 2 by then and done, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you got to buy all of them so you can have the different colors.
I'm sure that's what Nintendo wants.
I'm sure. Okay, so we got to the price point. Any last thoughts on the price stuff?
Yeah, so you know, they have that tutorial tech demo thing. I forgot what it's called, you know, and they're charging for it. And there's multiple thoughts to that. Number one is like, you know, Astro's Playground and the Steam Deck desktop one or whatever. Like, we're used to having tech demos as just being a pack-in feature or a free feature that will allow us to understand our console better. And they're saying, well, you got to pay for it. And I read something that's kind of interesting that said basically, you know, when we came out, Reggie like had to really push for Wii Sports to be a pack-in, and they didn't want to do that because they don't like the idea. And again, this is all like hearsay, what I read, right? But basically, that they didn't like the idea of giving away their work for free.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the idea. And so then that kind of parallels with what we're seeing right now, but we don't have somebody like Reggie like pushing for a pack-in or something, you know? And yeah, that value proposition for me is just really unfortunate. And I feel like we're just being nickeled and dimed at this point. Like they're, you know, between the Switch Online, between the you know, the pack-ins and then having to pay for a tutorial, you know, the $80 price point hike, and then also like online games and like the season passes and whatnot, all the other things that you would have to buy within a game. It's just, it's too much. It's too expensive. It doesn't feel like a good deal for me anymore. And it just keeps pushing me towards PC gaming is really what it's doing. Cause I'm like Steam sales and everything else. And, I don't have to worry about the Steam servers going down. I mean, sure it could, you know, worst case scenario, but it's not like the Switch 2, which I feel like is an inevitability that we will not be able to get our games at some point.
And you don't have to pay to play your game that you already own at a higher resolution.
Right.
With higher frame rate. You don't have to do that.
Or play online.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I love that point about Reggie. I feel like one of the criticisms I had about Nintendo, it's a double-edged sword, right? I love what Nintendo was doing by being unique and different from like Xbox and PlayStation and just playing their own game. But at the same time, the criticism there is, you know, they weren't good with online. They didn't have the support of third-party games, right? And so, like, what I was expecting from Nintendo this go-around is a balance between the two. And I feel like we really miss Reggie right now. We really miss Iwata right now. Without those personalities, it feels like they're run by a bunch of normies right now. And they're running the business like normies would.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that statement. We don't have any inside information, but that's definitely what it feels like to me as well.
Yeah, I had a lot of hopes for the Switch 2 prior to all this pricing stuff, where I thought this is an excellent handheld home console that basically you can play your Cyberpunk on it. You can play like these more AAA titles on a handheld without having to get into the world of PC gaming, figuring out things like settings and whatnot and getting the hardware and building your computer. You could just be able to do that stuff. This was basically like a PS4. Like you wouldn't have to buy a PS4 or an Xbox or whatever. You could maybe potentially play those games, at least the third-party ones, on that console. So it could be an all-in-one. But now with all this pricing and whatnot, my only thought is that this will only be for Nintendo games, the games that I cannot get elsewhere, because if I can get it anywhere else, I'm going to get it there.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like I used to play all my third-party games on my Switch, and then I got the Steam Deck, and I have not bought a third-party game from Nintendo since. It's every game that I get on the Nintendo Switch will be one that I cannot get anywhere else. Yeah. And if Nintendo's games weren't so freaking fun, I would just say, screw it. But I feel like I'm missing out on some really fun games. And I know there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of games available on Steam or on PlayStation or on Xbox, but not Mario Kart, not Zelda, not the next 3D Mario or whatever. Like those games you can only play on Nintendo devices. And so that's the ones that I'm going to get. Rich, you brought up the upgrade fee. I almost forgot about that. So if you have Nintendo Switch Online, apparently the upgrade, you don't have to pay to upgrade.
If expansion pack, not just online. You got to have like the high tier one, the $80 a year for family plan. Yeah.
Okay, so if you have the expansion pack, it comes with the upgrades for all of the games that you have. If there is an upgrade for said game,
I don't think they said for all, but they've said specifically for Zeldas. Yes, like it's very wonky. Like to know which one is which. Even if you go on their website and it's like how to upgrade, it's very vague. And so I don't know if we have any kind of permanent idea. Like I don't even think they've announced what the prices would be if you were just to pay it yourself.
I don't think they have.
And so it is all over the place. Yeah, it's crazy.
I will say this about Nintendo Switch Online. for a while, they would just give you DLC. Like you would have your game and they would say, by the way, as part of Nintendo Switch Online, you also have access to this DLC. But they would never make a blanket statement that says, if you subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online, DLC for Nintendo games is included in that. They never said that. Yeah. So you were always wondering, is this DLC going to be included in Nintendo Switch Online, or am I going to have to pay for it? And that's the kind of vagary that you were just talking about, Russ, that drives me up the wall.
Oh, that webpage on its own is almost infuriating for me. I read it and all I see is it saying, hey, we're definitely going to squeeze money out of you. Here are all the ways that we're going to squeeze that money out. Like there's nothing in there that's a good value or a good deal for the user. It's just like, pick the one that hurts the least for you, because that's basically what they're saying.
Yeah, and we've said it so many times before, right? But like subscriptions are cool sometimes, but either way, no matter how cool they are, the deal always gets worse. That is just also an inevitability. Like we can expect the deal to get worse, and we're seeing it happen live. GameCube Online, of course, or GameCube games are going to be tied to that too. And I don't think they made it clear which tier that falls under. So
it's in the highest tier.
It's in the expansion pack.
So, but Genesis, Nintendo 64, I thought they would go another expansion pack for GameCube, and at least it's included in the same one with the Nintendo 64 and Sega Genesis.
Good. But yeah, I am a OCD canceller of subscriptions. I will subscribe, but I will cancel them when I'm done with them. So like right now I have Hulu and Disney Plus because they had a deal, $2.99 per month for 3 months. After those 3 months, I am canceling. So I better watch whatever I want to watch during that time. And the only reason I have been subscribed to Netflix for years now is because my kids watch it, right? So like, fine, I'll keep that subscription, but I don't have Live, I don't have Game Pass. I will subscribe to them from time to time, and then I'll cancel.
Yeah, I was subscribed to PlayStation when they first upgraded whatever it was for, and then I canceled it, and then immediately on canceling it, my son was like, "Hey, let's play this game," and I was like, "All right, I guess I bought it again," and I always buy the year one because that's the cheapest. That's the cheapest one. All right, Russ, since we brought up the different tiers of the Nintendo Switch Online, GameCube games. I think we talked about it last week when we were talking about just emulation in general. I said, I don't emulate Nintendo 64 games and I don't emulate GameCube games because the controllers are never good for that. Well, you can buy N64 controllers for the Nintendo Switch. You can buy GameCube controllers for the Switch, and you can emulate those games as Nintendo drip feeds those out. Is that appealing to you, knowing that now it's just going to work and you don't have to fight with RetroArch in order to get your inputs recognized by the controller that you're using?
Yeah, no, I have not even thought once like, oh, that's definitely something I want, because I don't pay for the expansion pack. So the idea of, right now $35 a year for like the family group thing, with like our family and stuff, that works for me. $80 a year does not, even if it comes with GameCube, because I've got other ways to do that. And so I'm not too worried about that. I would much rather play my GameCube games, through Dolphin, try out some widescreen hacks and stuff like that. But the controller, I'm interested in picking that up. I'm assuming you'll have to have a Switch Online account in order to even order it in the first place. I'm hoping it doesn't require
work with the Switch too.
Well, that's what I'm hoping, is that it won't, that it'll be just a Bluetooth controller. But we'll see. Like if it's just a regular Bluetooth controller, then I will definitely be picking this up. Unless I also have to buy the expansion pack in order to order it, because I'm not doing that, and so we'll see how it goes. The interesting thing for me, too, is when they were showing off those games, they showed off F-Zero GX, which in its options menu, in-game menu, there's a widescreen option. And they didn't show that. They showed the game playing in 4:3. And I was like, why are they doing that? Like, do they not want to confuse people in saying that, oh, we're going to have widescreen, like, options, But that game has a widescreen option, and that's the way to play it. And so that was very interesting, is that they didn't even show that off. So who knows what's going on?
I think it'll be interesting for, like, games that support that via emulation, because like sometimes that can be hit or miss on emulators. But hopefully if Nintendo's implementing it, right, like it should be just hit. It should always work for the games that support widescreen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I will say that, like, this isn't necessarily related to the GameCube games being added to Nintendo Switch Online. But the N64 on Nintendo Switch Online, like you said, it's $80 a year, right, for the higher tier, which I don't subscribe to, the higher tier. But that actually might not be a terrible deal, because here I am. I bought, I mean, it hasn't arrived yet. I don't think it's supposed to get here until summer. I bought the Analog 3D, which is their FPGA N64 system. I bought N64 controllers on Amazon to go with it that are like Bluetooth, but not actually shaped like a N64, but they have the buttons in the right place. So it feels like you're actually playing N64 games. And then I'm going to like my local place to pick up the N64 games that I loved from back when I was in the Army and that came out. I'm spending a lot of money on N64 games. And I could just pay $80 a year and buy the N64, and you could say the same thing for GameCube. You know what I mean? But
you are buying forever games right now.
Exactly.
You're right.
$80 a year is going to add up. You know, like that's what kills me, is like that amount of stress. I'm like, I just spent $80. I better play the crap out of F-Zero GX right now because I got to get my money's worth. You know, I don't want to have that feeling. I want to just be able to buy it and be like, I will play this when I am ready. And I now have the option for the rest of my life to do that.
Yeah, because you're comparing like, you know, a shitty situation to like slightly less, right? Like there's no reason Nintendo couldn't just sell you F-Zero GX at $20, but they're not. And that kind of sucks.
Yeah. But although back when they did sell us, they had the virtual console, they were selling us games piecemeal. And everybody was like, we want Nestflix, is what everybody kept saying. We want Nestflix, where we can just subscribe and you send us all the Nintendo games. And then they did that, and everybody was like, not like that.
Well, that was back, like, people were asking for that back when Netflix was awesome, right? Like I just said, the deal keeps getting worse. And so we've seen that. Yeah. And, you know, ask anybody now, they would love virtual console back as long as I get to keep the games that I bought in 2008, right? Like if I could keep those games and play them right now, that'd be awesome.
Right, because how many times have we bought these games
now?
What'd you say, Russ?
I was just saying we have all that hindsight now that those games could go away. And so it's like we're smarter now, and a little bit more bitter, I'd say.
Especially me.
Well, I mean, we've seen Nintendo, and not just Nintendo. I mean, they're not the only ones doing this, but we've seen servers shut down over and over and over, and games disappearing. And, you know, like we said at the beginning of the show, we were talking about some of the games will actually be on the cards and some of them won't be on the cards. Once the servers are shut down, it doesn't matter if you have that card, you're screwed. And that sucks.
Yeah.
And I also wonder if you can take that card and, like, if I buy one of those games that comes on a card that isn't actually on the card and I still have to download it, and I install it in my, I put it in my Nintendo Switch, and then I say, oh, Rich, you're going to love this game. Here you go. Will I be able to hand it to you and you be able to put it in your Switch and play it? That is a big question. And I part of me thinks that, no, they won't go that far, but they will.
They didn't say they wouldn't.
Right.
That's the
Exactly.
thing, right? That's the point of it.
And we had a couple things last week where we're like, I don't think they'll go that far. And then they did, right? Like the Nintendo Switch Online subscription for upgrades was literally something Carrie said as a joke.
Right. And I said, no, don't do that, Nintendo. Although I thought it was going to be Nintendo Switch Online for upgrades, and you also have to pay for the upgrades. Yep. So I'm glad that they didn't do that. That's what I thought Carrie was saying.
Yeah.
All right. So emulation. we talked about emulation a little bit, but apparently the Nintendo Switch 2 is so different than the Nintendo Switch 1 that Nintendo made their own emulator. And so when you are playing, hey, Nintendo, you always said emulation is bad, right? When you are playing Nintendo Switch 1 games on your Nintendo Switch 2, you are emulating them. I wonder if this is why Nintendo wanted Ryujinx so bad.
Yeah, I think that Yuzu and Ryujinx were part of it, but I think that it's a combination. They said, it's a combination of emulation and like hardware stuff, and I think that's just a Proton, like a translation layer. So it's kind of like a mixture of those, which will be very interesting to see how that falls out for people who try to emulate Switch 2 games, and hardware wise, like, is it not going to be as easy to get into? But already we're seeing there are lists of games that are not compatible with the Switch 2, which to me indicates that, yes, they are using software in order to play this stuff. Same like how we had Xbox games that were compatible with the Xbox 360, like all that stuff. There's a list of it because it was a software solution. And so I'm seeing the same thing here. Yeah, it's interesting how that's all coming out, and they'll never acknowledge that, oh yeah, it's okay if we do emulation. It's just not okay if you do it. They're just never going to say that. So
yeah. I mean, we've had that discussion so often, probably on here, about the difference between piracy and emulation, right? Like, and you can, I would love to make a matrix to explain, right? Like, you can have piracy with emulation, piracy without emulation, emulation with without piracy, and you have all of these permutations, and emulation without piracy is literally this. It's Nintendo making an emulator for a thing that, that they have control over, they have the rights over. So that's not, I mean, they've obviously done that before with everything on the Nintendo Switch Online and Virtual Console. That's all emulation, right? So it is a little surprising that they needed to do that for the Switch 1, and it's disappointing to know that there are games that are not compatible, and not just because of the IR sensor or whatever, right, but that they're just not compatible. So I do wonder if that's going to change over time, because that's something we saw with Microsoft, where the list was a lot smaller and it grew over time. It never was the full library, but it grew over time. So could be the same here.
You mean we got more games compatible over time, not less?
Right. Yes. The list of compatible games, not the list of incompatible.
I was thinking of a list of incompatible games.
Yep,
okay.
Fair.
Well, there you have it. That's the Nintendo Switch 2 in a bucket. You can carry it around with you if you want. I don't know why I said in a bucket, but I am of two minds on the Nintendo Switch 2, but I am still going to buy it because I'm a stupid, stupid man, and that's okay.
I think I'll buy it. I would even buy it day one, as long as it's easily available to me, right? Like, if I have to go through hoops, then I don't make those hoops, I'm not going to cry over it, and I'm probably not going to go to eBay. I'll just, get it when I can get it.
Well, there's a 0% chance I will ever support scalpers by going to eBay, but right. I will. On whatever day that we can start pre-ordering, I'm going to have Best Buy and Target and everything bookmarked with my already signed in and ready to go, so I can try and beat the bots to the last thing. I will also, Russ, you mentioned earlier the requirements for pre-ordering. You have to have a year subscription of Nintendo Switch Online, and you have to have 50 hours of playtime on your Nintendo Switch. That's easy for me, because I don't emulate Nintendo Switch games because I don't want to jump through the hoops. Like, it's too much of a pain in the ass. I just want to turn on my game and play it. So the easiest way to do that is to just buy the games and play them on that system. I know that you buy the games and then you just emulate them instead because you prefer to play them on other devices. I just don't want to do all that work. So I'll easily qualify, but I didn't sign up right away because I went to the website and I was like, I can't find where I'm supposed to go because it just said sold out.
Yeah.
And then I found a link the next day where I clicked on it and it was like, register your interest in pre-ordering. So we'll see what happens there. Real quick, before we get out of here, I do have a message that was sent in to us by someone using the I've now forgotten the website, voicecast.app/nerdnest, and it's Matt talking about our discussion last last week about Xbox and their, you know, what they're doing with Windows on PC. So let's give a quick listen.
As a PC and Steam Deck user, I don't really have a horse in the Xbox race, but I do agree with a few points that were made by everyone. One, I don't care about the hardware at all. I'm just not the target audience. Two, I hope the software is amazing and the ISO gets a public release. That way we can put it on our living room PCs and no longer need keyboard and mice in our living rooms. That'd be fantastic. And three, I also have very little faith that Microsoft is going to be able to deliver on this. History's shown us that when Windows gets into bed with Xbox, we get games for Windows Live. A potential pitfall I can see for the device as well is if it has the Xbox branding and maybe it doesn't have the horsepower to play certain games, or you need Game Pass Ultimate to stream some of the heavier games, I think the casual crowd that just wants to go into Best Buy and pick it up is going to despise it for that. It needs to be able to stand on its own without a monthly ransom fee from Microsoft or being tethered to the internet. If I install a copy of Baldur's Gate 3, it should be able to run while I'm on a plane or out in the middle of the woods. A quote that kind of sums up my feelings pretty well from a few years ago is, yeah, we have a product for those without internet. It's called Xbox 360. And maybe my stance is a bit harsh, but after being spoiled with the Steam Deck for a few years, I just can't expect less from Microsoft.
What do you think, Rich?
A whole lot of good points, and I love the quote. I like to think that Microsoft has learned a lot of lessons from games for Windows Live, and that time in their history, the Windows 8 or Vista 8, right? The Windows 8 timeframe. I don't remember. With the store and all of that stuff. 8. They seem to be a completely different Microsoft right now, and we've talked about that a lot. So I do like to believe they've learned a lot of lessons, and I believe this will be like a real open platform that they would make the ISO available as soon as possible, that sort of thing. But that said, I still don't have the greatest of faith in them to deliver what I think I want, like a really seamless controller experience. I'd love for them to prove me wrong, but that's where I'm sitting right now.
Russ, do you think that they would lock that to this new hardware? I mean, that just seems foolish to me. It's just Windows. So when you update Windows, if you like the way I envision that would be the right way to do it is just, oh, there's a controller attached. Pop up a window that says, do you want to navigate Windows with a controller? If I hit yes this time, or no, not this time, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that would just solve the problem, like he said, to get the mice and keyboard out of our living rooms.
Yeah, I'd be interested. And, I don't think it'll be like an ISO file. Like, I don't think they'll have like a specific version of Windows you got to burn onto your computer. I think it'll just be an app or some sort of thing, and like it'll be a program that you'll just go into a mode. And whether or not they put that on like it's a Windows update, everybody gets it, and then now you have it, or whether or not it's got to be something you got to opt into, get from the Microsoft Store. I don't know. But, as he was describing all of these kind of hurdles in terms of like performance and whatnot, the first thing I'm thinking is, man, that's too complicated. It's too complicated. Like it's we need a simple solution. It's just an Xbox. You turn it on. It's an Xbox experience. Like that's what we need. And today's environment is very complex, and they're partially responsible for that with their Game Pass Ultimate and everything else. Like they've already added in these like complications just to the overall gaming experience, UWP versus using other platforms and whatnot. So that's the thing they got to really nail, is streamline that experience for a casual user who can go into Best Buy, pick up an Xbox handheld, and it'll be an Xbox experience. That's what they need to have.
Anyway, thank you so much, Matt, for sending that in. If you guys want to send in comments for the show, you can head to voicecast.app/NerdNest. The last thing that I want to talk about before we wrap up the show is what we've been playing. I played nothing this week because I was way too busy. Rich, you played Marvel Rivals Season 2. Do you have any thoughts on
not
the new
Season
stuff?
2. I just wanted to tell you I'm excited about Season 2. Season 2 comes out next week, but they just dropped a bunch of information on it. Emma Frost is the new hero. She's a Vanguard. She looks pretty cool. She has like a mode switch like Cloak and Dagger does. So I am really excited about Emma Frost. Looks like Ultron's going to be the second hero coming in about a month from now. They're going to be doing a new hero every month now.
That's crazy.
Starting in season 2. Insane. So yeah, I'm really excited about season 2. I have continued to play it. I ranked down to gold, ranked back up to platinum. So I'm hoping I stay in platinum until the season ends, where I'm going to be knocked back down anyway.
Russ, you've been playing. You finished off Ghost of Tsushima. Hadn't you already finished that off last week?
No, I was getting close. But
getting
one
close,
question
okay.
before I talk about that. Rich, how much does season 2 cost for Marvel Rivals?
$0. So there
Nintendo, are you listening?
correct.
They're not listening.
They do have like battle passes and stuff like that. You know, I have my criticisms of Marvel Rivals and NetEase, but I will say, as far as games as a service games go, they've been really good. They've been listening to the community, providing, new heroes for free. You can grind costumes. Sometimes the grind is too much, but you can grind them, unlike, other games where you have no choice but to pay.
And then my follow-on question here, Your Honor, is what did it cost to buy Marvel Rivals in the first place?
Objection.
So you're saying that this is a game, not a tutorial, and you didn't
Correct.
have to pay for it.
Correct.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Okay.
amazing.
That
Anyway,
tutorial
so
is really getting him under his skin.
is.
I like it,
It really
because it
does.
pissed me off too.
Man, I make so many tutorials. I don't charge anybody. Anyway.
At all. Yep.
Ghost of Tsushima, I finished it off. I basically was near the end. Like, I was at the point in the game last week where I was like, it's saying like, click on this thing, you can start the end campaign. And I just hadn't done that yet. So I did that. And, it really came into its own, that game in particular. Like, I liked how simple it was in the beginning. I liked how Japanese it felt in the beginning. But by the end of it, I actually leveled up with it. It's one of those games where I actually did use all of those weapon features that were available to me, as opposed to like Horizon games where I just use my bow and arrow. I don't care about like my shot put or whatever all the other options you have. I just use my bow and arrow. With this one, I was using just a combination of everything. I felt like a master. I'd walk into this Mongol village and I'm like, I'm going to kill all these guys. Not one single person will even know I'm here. Like that was my goal, right? And so it felt very Metal Gear Solid 5, where it's just kind of, you make your own experience. You make your own story right then and there.
Except it was finished.
Yeah, it was a finished game too. But not to the level where it was like innovative like Metal Gear Solid 5 was, where I was just like, this is so crazy that like I was able to pull that off. There's definitely tighter sandbox for Ghost of Tsushima, but I really did enjoy that. And after you finish the game, they're like, okay, cool, you did everything. Here's all the other problems we got going on. And it just makes all this red stuff on your map. And you're like, oh, I got 20 more hours now that I can jump into. So I actually liked that, because I was like, now, if I ever want to get back into this game, I will just go and do all that stuff. I don't want to do a New Game Plus. I never really liked New Game Plus, because I like the story. I like to do it one time and just kind of run through it. So I'm looking forward to that. And then also, I didn't touch the DLC, because DLC comes with a PC version. And that is, so the way Tsushima Island is organized is it's 3 main chunks. And each one is about the same size. And each one has its own feeling and environment and whatnot. The DLC is another smaller island to the side. So it's basically another 33% of game is what I'm assuming, So that is another thing I will tackle if I ever get the hankering to play the game again. But it was long, 40 hours to complete just where I am right now, which I felt was about 10 hours too much, just because it did get a little repetitive. Some of those missions where it's like, okay, go talk to the person. They're like, all right, walk with me. And you got to do the whole like walk with me while they tell you the story, and it takes 5 minutes. So annoying. Like that I saw that so many times when all those missions, that those kind of things felt repetitive. So it could have been tighter, but overall, even though it is a 5-year-old game, like I just can't help but, recommend it, because it was just so fun and definitely worth it.
So just to be clear,
go ahead.
What I heard was you paid no extra money for DLC, and you can play it on your last gen PC as well as your next gen PC.
Absolutely. And I waited for a sale, and I only paid like $35 or $40 for it, and so totally worth it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned the waiting for a sale, and I, like, in my video that I posted today, where I was talking about the idea that all game prices are going to go up, sale prices are going to go up too. But what I mean by that is they'll have 50% off still, but 50% off of a $60 game is $30. 50% off of an $80 game is $40. So even the patient gamers who are like, I'm not paying $80 for a game, you're right, you're not. but you are going to pay more than you're paying now because all the prices are about to go up. At least that's what my prediction is.
That makes sense. And Nintendo doesn't really go on sale. So you can't say, oh, I'll pick up Mario Kart World when it goes for $40. It never will.
That's true.
But it's not just Nintendo. It's going to be everybody's going to raise their price because if they can, so can everybody else, I think. You mentioned you don't like the part about walking with somebody, like waiting and like especially if the game doesn't automatically match you to the pace. That always drove me crazy. Do not. I know I said it last week, Russ. Do not play Monster Hunter Wilds. The entire story is you walking with somebody. But there was one thing that I left out last week that I wanted to mention about Monster Hunter Wilds. The mount system makes the game so much better because the way that Monster Hunter games work is you fight a monster and then it's like it runs away from you. It's like, Jesus, this guy's with a giant hammer is really pissing me off. I'm going to run away. And then you have to like chase him down. Well, the way that it used to do it is like you would throw a paintball at it or something. You would try and track the monster. You'd have to go looking for it. And that meant that going to hunt this monster took 30, 40 minutes because you're following them around trying to find them. In the new one, you just push up on your D-pad, your mount runs up, you hop on the mount, and you say, go chase the monster. And while it's on its way chasing the monster, you're like picking up stuff that you can then craft into other things. So, oh, look at that. There's a mushroom. I can grab that mushroom and I can mix it with this in order to make this new thing. Oh, there's some honey over there. I can make some potions. I can sharpen my blade. And you do all of that stuff that you always did in the Monster Hunter games, but now you're doing it while your mount is taking you to where the monster is. It streamlines the experience so much, and I can't stop playing it. It's so much fun. I didn't get a chance to play many games this week. That's the game that I can't wait to get back to is Monster Hunter Wilds. But again, Russ, not for you. Rich, I really think you'll like it. I really do.
I'm skeptical. I'll try it.
I wish they would put out a demo. You've also been playing It Takes Two?
Yeah, so I had been playing, and I'm continuing to play Split Fiction with my daughter. My son was out sick this week. Like, he missed almost the entire week of school. And on Monday, I had the day off, and, he'd just been in bed for a couple days at this point. And I'm like, I'll join you in your room and let's play some It Takes Two. I didn't want to play Split Fiction because I was playing that with my daughter. So we played It Takes Two. He was on the ROG Ally X and I was on the Steam Deck, and it was a ton of fun. So I had started it before, but this time I got a little bit further with him. So I think we're now 1 to 2 hours in, somewhere in that time frame. And that game holds up. It's really good.
That's the prison one, right? Where you two guys getting out of prison?
It Takes Two is the kids with the dolls. The dolls one.
Oh, okay.
A Way Out?
A Way Out?
Yeah, that's the prison one. So I'm waiting, till he turns a little older, then we can play A Way Out.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Russ, what have you been working on, man?
So I have got the Lenovo Legion Go S. So I've been working on that for about a week now, just trying to find a reason why they charge $729 for this thing. I always, I find something, I'm like, this is who it's good for. I'm struggling. So I may finish that video today. I may finish it tomorrow. But it's a rough ride. Like, I can't believe they're charging so much for this thing that is beat out by the original Legion Go in every single way.
Yikes.
Outside of comfort.
Outside of comfort. It is very comfortable. I like the white color.
That's it.
And Rich, you're still on sabbatical.
Yeah, you've made a couple of videos that were kind of not in my wheelhouse. I'll say just things that simpatico. We have some of the same ideas, so that had me a little inspired. But we'll see. I'm still taking it easy. That's the most important part. Is I'm enjoying time with my family, and when I come back, it'll be because I'm really hyped to do it.
Yeah, so head on over to youtube.com/retrogamecore and youtube.com/fanthedeck. Subscribe to both of those guys. Subscribe here as well. And thank you all for listening to the podcast. And we will see you on the next one. Stay rad, everybody.